From the Major Label Debut Podcast Network, this is your MLD News. I'm Graham Wright, and joining me to break down the latest developments in and around the world of music is MLD producer John Paul Bullock. John Paul, how the hell are you, buddy?
I am doing great, Graham. Thank you for having me on this show.
It's my absolute pleasure to have you on this show that belongs to both of us equally, and therefore is not really a guest appearance by you so much as fulfilling your fiduciary duty as a producer and co-host of the news portion of the podcast.
I still like the artifice and rhythms of this, like the ritual of weird fake radio / future podcast internet mumbo jumbo, or is that a thing you're still allowed to say? Is mumbo jumbo? That seems like offensive for some reason. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know who that's offending.
You know what? Hit us in the mailbag, listeners. If mumbo jumbo, if we're supposed to bleep that out, we'll be happy to do it going forward. That will be news to us. I think that we talk a lot on this show about the sort of performative artifice of making records and how the very knowledge of being perceived affects the way that we express ourselves. So I think both of us doing that at the top of every news segment is just a perfect example of the thematic heart of this entire enterprise.
Agree. Hard agree. Hard agree.
Well, while we were doing our story meeting, our news analysis gathering conversation to talk about which issues we tackle on today's podcast, John Paul, you told me maybe we should talk about the Fender controversy. And I said, what controversy? So if any of our listeners are saying the same thing, could you introduce to me and the people what's going on with the good people at Fender Musical Instruments?
In February of this year, or thereabouts, Fender won a German lawsuit ruling giving them increased rights somehow, I think as a, quote, like a work of art to the Strat style S-type body shape, and then promptly sent out a bunch of cease and desist letters to makers of Strat style guitars, which are, thick on the ground, stuff like the PRS Silver Sky and that kind of thing that, sell hundreds of thousands or millions of these guitars every year. I don't know how. I actually have no idea. Many guitars.
It's got to be a lot.
It's got to be a lot. And then the internet exploded, and there were all sorts of hot takes where people were like, "I'm never playing another Fender again." And this is a guitar that was released to the public in 1954. Is a lot of people feel like is part of the fabric of popular music, and that the body shape should be in the public domain. Fender, through I think their new CEO, whose name was Edward Bud Cole, I think, has been trying to maintain that they have the rights to this, and people are freaking out. I've literally seen at least 100 videos. I've not watched them, but I have scrolled by them in my YouTube feed about this, and I thought it was time that you and I, Graham, got a little of that content glow up from this. Just took a little. We should take something back from both Fender and these YouTubers, and keep it for ourselves.
The Fender Stratocaster has to be the electric guitar. If you went out to 25 random people on the street with a pad of paper and said, draw an electric guitar, you got to assume most of them are going to draw something approximating the shape of the Fender Stratocaster. I think that if you use the electric guitar emoji on your phone, the shape is that of the Fender Stratocaster. It
for
really
sure
is the type specimen for what an electric guitar is, even more than the Les Paul. Mm-hmm. And as such, it's easy to understand why Fender would like to exert their ownership over that ubiquitous and famous design, which, as you say, is, if you've ever gone guitar shopping, there are zillions of guitars that look just like a Fender Stratocaster made by everything from companies like PRS, who are big, giant corporations with great reputations, to your local electric guitar making hobbyist. It's like the default. And so you can also understand why all these people who for all these years have been using this old reliable shape to make their guitars are a little bit peeved off by Fender suddenly sending them cease and desist letters. However friendly and constructive, or whatever the words that the CEO used, those letters may purport to be.
What's your feeling about Strat? Do you like a Strat? Have you owned Strats? Do you own a Strat currently?
So before I got my first guitar, the first guitar-shaped object I owned was when I was in 6th grade, or grade 6 as we call it in Canada. I was walking to the bus stop one day, and by someone's curb, I found this. If you're not watching on the video, I'm holding up a wooden, sort of two-dimensional fake prop-style Stratocaster, which I took home and spent the next several years in my bedroom air guitaring along to all the songs I loved. And in a very real way, it's sort of my origin as a musician. It was the first time I sort of inhabited, even, as a form of play, the guy with the guitar windmilling and playing it behind my head and, doing all the cool moves. And so even before I got a real guitar, as I was, ingesting the aesthetic glory of what it feels like to play a guitar, the shape that was in my hands was the Fender Stratocaster. My first real electric guitar was a Squier Stratocaster, which I don't have handy, but I do still own. It hasn't had strings on it in 20 years, but it's around here somewhere. And then after that, I never even thought about getting another Stratocaster. I think because it's such a default that for a self-consciously would-be cool or interesting musician like I wanted to be, and I guess still want to be, the first decision I made about what electric guitar I was going to buy was away from the Fender Stratocaster. Mm-hmm. And, I was never a technically gifted player. I wasn't a practicer or a theory head. And so I didn't want a tool. I wanted an electric guitar, and it needed to look cool, and it needed to feel right, which I think means look cool. And so I gravitated to Telecasters and then out to Gibsons and stuff. And to this day, I've never once felt any hankering or yearning to own a Fender Stratocaster in particular.
Interesting. My friend Corey recently, shout out Corey, said that he wanted to get a dad Strat, and that as an older man, he's not that old, but he is now a dad, and that guitar to me does have this kind of, it is the guitar that maybe our dads like thought of as a guitar, and it has this kind of old man energy to it, which is funny because I was talking about how there have not really been that many significant design changes to guitar over the years. And my friend John, shout out John, was talking about the beautiful St. Vincent Music Man guitar and how that is such a groundbreaking design and how cool it is. And we both talked about how we'd like to own one. But I think I still like to own a nice Strat. I don't, it does seem like the perfect thing to play like boomer bends filled blues rock. And I don't know what's your relationship like with the blues, Graham, as a white Canadian?
I've never been a fan. I like my sevens major. I just don't. Well, I was introduced to it as so many things, growing up in the 90s, growing up with much music and alternative rock radio. When I heard blues rock, it was like, it wasn't the blues. It was riffy 12-bar blues rock, which I just always found to have no emotional appeal to me at all. It makes me feel nothing other than sort of a vague sense of irritation that, the best thing you can hear on a blues rock song is really good playing. And I've never cared that much about hearing a guy. And maybe this is also part of my ambivalence towards the Stratocaster, is I'm imagining a really good guitar player with a really good guitar tone playing a really good blues rock solo at the moment in the song where the solo happens, for the 12 bars or however long. And then they go back to the rest of the song, which never has an interesting melody and seldom has interesting lyrics. Again, this is a knock on blues rock, not the blues, which is a whole different thing. I'm not qualified to talk about that either, but I would never insult it so glibly.
So Stevie Ray Vaughan comes on the radio. You feel dead inside? Is that I?
Yeah, I changed the channel.
Oh wow.
You know, Dave Monk's, singer of Tokyo Police Club, has another band called Max the Band, and they do some blues rock, and it's good. It's good. I've been talking shit about blues rock, but I've seen some Max shows that were really shredding shows, and it's a great band. But I kind of flatter myself that part of the reason that band existed is that Dave, a really good guitar player, would sometimes bring in some good guitar playing blues rock songs to Tokyo Police Club, and I would stonewall them. This is not, I'm not proud of not being a good creative collaborator in those moments, but you got to act from your gut. You got to act with your taste. And I think I just was not willing to play a 7 ever. So he had to start a whole other band.
I honestly think that's a great thing. That is an important role to play as a collaborator. It's like, no. We're not doing this. We're doing something else. It's like, I think that's honestly one of the things that was great about Tokyo Police Club is that was a lot of those songs were not like blues anything or based in that there was a adventurous experimental spirit to the work y'all did. And I think sometimes being a good collaborator is having to tell the person you're working with, this is a bad idea.
Well, thank you for saying so. I hope that my compass, well, it was what it was, it pointed to whatever north I knew, and now we're all here. I really have trouble hearing sincerity in blues rock, in Stratocaster rock. A guy making a guy who looks like he's like tasting a good mouthful of food while he plays a Fender Stratocaster is simply not going to do anything for me ever. But I know there's a lot of people who love it, and it has a rich tradition. And certainly I'm not a patch on any of these fellas as a technical player. And so I don't mean to cast aspersions on their virtuosity. And it's interesting that our Fender Stratocaster conversation has led us down this particular road. I don't know if that's universally agreed upon or if it's just my associations with it, but probably goes a long way to explaining my lack of relationship with the Fender Stratocaster guitar. So I don't care that they're suing everybody. Good.
Yeah.
Throw them all in the furnace. Telecasters only. They should go around with like a big axe and like lop off all of the long
the horn,
the long
the
horn,
top horn.
and make them a legal guitar. That's what I say. I don't really believe that.
Would you ever buy the St. Vincent guitar?
I think I would sooner buy the Hello Kitty Stratocaster.
Oh, wow.
That to me is the most desirable Strat they've ever put out.
That's like known primarily as a metal guitar that people use it because it's like they swap out the pickup and then they turn it into, it's like I've seen all people put like an Evertune bridge on it and then like active pickups in it or a active pick like a EMG from the I hear you. I would love to have the white the Olympic white Hello Kitty. I think is the one for me. But I'd like to have I'd like to have both the St. Vincent and like a nice Strat, like a good example of one that there's something about the way the pickups sound. I don't know if it is which position it is, the middle position or the one where it has that kind of like wet, metallic, distinct, Dire Straitsy. I feel like there's a Strat sound that I really like. I think that there's a lot of other use cases for it that are better than blues rock too. But I don't know. I guess I associate it too with the '80s, like hyper clean, kind of cocaine fueled, probably pretty evil music. A lot of those songs, I feel like Rachel always calls them out. My wife Rachel always calls them out as she's like they're bitch you're gonna regret it songs, which are like
that is a very specific genre.
Yeah, and it's like one out of every three, but particularly those late '60s songs are a lot of like, you're gonna be sad that you left me, even though I was a horrible, abusive partner to you.
I think in my continued interest and examination of rock and roll as a notably inherently like contemporary capitalist art form, something that was born in the forge of sort of like post-war industrial capitalism blowing up. The fact that this is also an art form that's so associated not just with these instruments, but with these brand named instruments, the Fender Stratocaster, the Gibson Les Paul, the Gibson SG, the Fender Telecaster, the PRS, the this, the that. They don't, I'm sure that jazz players have a lot of opinions about people who make trumpets and people who make mouthpieces, and classical violinists, know about the differences between the different types of violin. But if you go to the symphony, they all look like they're playing violins and cellos. And if you go to a jazz show, they look like they're playing trumpets and trombones. There's no branding to these instruments in the same way that the Fender Stratocaster is a integral part of the image of so many great bands, as is the Telecaster, as is the Les Paul, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And these are known by a lot of people, even beyond musicians, never mind gearheads. Just like an average Joe on the street who doesn't know a guitar chord to save his life might know what a Fender Stratocaster is, not just what it looks like, but what it's called. And I think as rock and roll gets old, and as our sclerotic, stultified culture continues to sort of like bash against a ceiling and gather, just like with the Mickey Mouse copyright being extended for infinity, this is not the last we're going to see of these, mega brand guitar makers exerting their ownership over these iconic images of rock and roll that, as you say, probably do belong to or should belong to the people, but of course must never be allowed to belong to the people.
Well, other than the actual body shape being comfortable or not comfortable against your tummy, I do think my biggest concern aesthetically with guitars is, real talk, the headstock. And I do think that the open book Gibson headstock is the greatest headstock design ever, but the two Fender penis headstocks are also excellent headstocks. It is as a guitar is a giant phallus. It is like that's the most logical extension of the I do think that that I want people to make cool new guitar designs, but they have to be aware that my problem with 99% of other guitars that are not made by the two major manufacturers is the headstocks are hideous. And that is it's a big problem. It's the first thing you see. It's the thing that points out at you, thrusts out at you.
My beloved Fender Telecaster Deluxe, one of the key aesthetic signifiers of that guitar is that rather than the little skinny Tele headstock, it has the nice, big, beautiful Strat style headstock. And well, I'm not a Stratocaster fan. I am a fan of the Stratocaster shaped headstock. So, I just hope that the people of the world can continue finding ways to make headstocks of that shape with or without the permission of Leo Fender's ghost.
Well, okay. I think that there's not much to say here about this other than I just want to talk with you about guitars for the next 45 minutes, which we can do over the course of the rest of our lives together in private. But I do think that I don't know. So how do you feel about Fender in this case? Or you don't care at all, and this is totally fake news? And is this a thing? Or do you want someone to go to John Mayer's house and snatch every single one of those Silver Skies out of his mansion and set them up, make him watch as they, like Mandy style, where it's put them in a burlap sack and then roast them out in a pyre in front of his home?
That's the one.
Okay.
I don't even not because of any particular ideological commitment I have. That just sounds like a funny thing to have happen.
You want to punish John Mayer? I did. I saw Dead and Company, and he is a very good guitar player, but he did the entire time make the face you're describing. It was a relentless orgasm face for.
He plays those tasty riffs. My genuine, I think probably this will all shake out to be not very much. It seems unlikely to me that Fender is going to put the time and effort and take the reputational hit in this day and age of, sending out a SWAT team of lawyers to destroy every bandsaw that makes Stratocaster shaped guitars. at the same time, I mean, I also have Fender is really nice to bands. They've hooked me up with a lot of beautiful instruments over the years, and it's hard for me to say anything against them. This is the era we live in. Big giant companies are obliged to do stuff like this, and it's ugly and it looks bad because it's like it reflects something rotten about the core of our society, I believe. And when it touches my beloved music, it has a little bit of a more unpleasant taste even than usual. But it's I'm hating the game, not the player on this one.
I hear you. Fender, great California corporation, and I look forward to the AI guitars that they're surely building right now to.
Dear God.
No more physical guitars, Graham. It's only
don't need them.
Don't need them. They just
you put on your meta glasses, and then you're like it appears in your hand. You're playing it in the Matrix.
Yep.
We should all be so lucky. Well, you heard it here first. If you have any illicit Fenders, bury them in the backyard until this whole thing blows over, and they'll be worth even more after the great purge of Stratocaster-shaped guitars. I think I hear a helicopter team rappelling down onto my roof to claim this wooden Stratocaster I found in the garbage 30 years ago. So I guess I'll kiss that goodbye as well, and I'll kiss you goodbye as well, dear listener, and dear John Paul Bullock. Thank you so much for joining me to explain and analyze this fascinating news story.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Josh Hook. Hello, Josh. Thank you.
Josh Hook, also the producer of Major Label Debut, along with John Paul Bullock, two great producers.
We produced together. Yes, I feel like a connection to him, as well as a connection to Greg Alsop, who made our incredible theme music.
We love Greg. We love the song. And we love the podcast, and we're always happy to do it, and we're going to be doing it again before long. So please keep following along and sharing it with your friends. And again, if Mumbo Jumbo is racist or offensive in any other way, please let us know before I say it a fifth time.
Or if the Fender Stratocaster itself is racist in some way, that would
be quite the twist.
Yes, I do think. Or, you know what? Like, if you do want to organize one of these Strat burnings, please save one of them for me, because I've been thinking about it a lot and do want a Strat.
Coolest thing anyone's ever done with a Stratocaster, arguably, is set it on fire, Jimi Hendrix.
True. Very true. Very true. This is, complicated guy, too, himself.
And that's a topic for another episode. Thank you for listening to Major Label Debut. Thank you for listening to MLD News. Thank you for being wonderful. We'll be back with more tales, analysis, and shtick from the intersection of art and commerce. So long.
See you soon.